I'm really excited about this program because I think the pieces that have been selected are incredibly resonant, of course, as part of the theme, but they're resonant, I think, for contemporary audiences for a number of reasons. I'm actually conducting the William Grant Still Festive Overture in a few days at Springfield, Massachusetts, with the Springfield Symphony in that town. And then I'm looking forward to doing it again. And what I love about this piece for audience members who or listeners who may remember those old Pathé news film reels, and that were kind of out around World War II, talking about, giving updates of the war or like rebuilding or documenting, the devastation on the continent, and all kinds of things. But that background music, I feel like the Festive Overture is almost like the soundtrack for one of those old Pathé newsreels. And so it sounds very dated, but it also sounds like it's edited for film. It sounds like a piece that would go great with a visual element. And William Grant Still did a lot of work for TV and for film, as well as being a traditional classical composer. And so I think people are really going to enjoy hearing that as a very historically placed piece. The Dawson Negro Folk Symphony has its own connection to history because he infused so many Negro spirituals in the music itself. And his compositional style for me is very reminiscent, like when you see old Turner Classic movie films and they have some old conductor guy and he's talking to the audience about some tragic young composer who says, "This young man is the voice of American symphonies today and must be discovered, and I've discovered this young man." And I always, and you hear these kind of very romantic, huge orchestral pieces being performed, and I imagine this is one of those pieces. It's got a huge, very dramatic sound to it. It's a very unique symphony, and I think people will find Dawson's voice, again, very modern sounding to our ears. And then finally, the Julia Perry Stabat Mater, which is a piece I did with the LA Phil a little while ago. It's a piece that I have fallen in love with. And that the more you study it, it's a little bit like an onion. The more you kind of unravel it, the more layers there are to really get to know. And to me, the piece is almost like a spoken word sort of performance. The way that she sets the text of the Stabat Mater, sort of sentence by sentence. And each movement of the work is a setting of that particular, one or two sentences. And it's a very evocative sort of piece. It's unlike any Stabat Mater I've heard before, or maybe many people in the audience have ever heard before. It is quite, like I said, evocative and emotional and expressive, but her tonal language is also very, very modern. And when I say modern, I don't mean like as in contemporary today modern. I mean as in modernist, the aesthetic of the 50s, very modernist aesthetic, very clean lines, a very reduced sort of mechanics in terms of the way that she's developing themes, very spare texture. It's only for strings and for voice. And I think audiences will also find it incredibly fascinating.